This is Khamzat Chimaev. Right after capturing the UFC championship, he went straight to meet the president of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov. He handed over his belt and expressed his gratitude, saying, "When I broke down, I stopped believing in myself. He brought me back and told me, 'If you train, you'll become a champion.' And that's exactly what happened. I'm thankful to him for that." When Islam Makhachev won the UFC lightweight title, the first thing he did was also visit Kadyrov. He brought his belt, and the two posed for countless photos together. Another UFC legend from Dagestan, Khabib Nurmagomedov, has also been seen dozens of times in public alongside Kadyrov. From the photos and videos, they seem to share a friendly bond, joking, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. Khabib's father, Abdulmanap, even received a luxury car as a gift from Kadyrov. And that's only the beginning. Current and former UFC champions, combat sports icons, legendary boxers, and world-famous athletes have all spent time with the Chechen leader. Every one of them looked cheerful and honored to be by his side. But this raises some obvious questions. What's the secret behind his influence? Why do so many fighters praise him and call him a friend? What does he give them, and what does he make them fear? And what happens if someone actually dares to say no to the great Ramzan Kadyrov? You'll find the answers to all of these questions in this video. But let me warn you, the truth is terrifying. The information for this investigation comes from the documentary, a biography written in blood, by the independent Russian outlet Proект. The link is in the description. Kadyrov's rise. To understand who Ramzan Kadyrov truly is, we have to go back to the beginning, his past, his rise to power, and the brutal methods he's used to keep it ever since. It all started with his father, Akhmat Kadyrov, who, with the full backing of Vladimir Putin, became president of Chechnya in 2003, a republic that remains part of the Russian Federation. Akhmat was Moscow's favorite. He seemed to understand the Kremlin's expectations perfectly and appeared ready to serve under its leadership for years. But over time, he began to express public frustration, complaining that his authority was extremely limited. His relationship with the Russian government, and even with Putin himself, began to deteriorate. In one of his speeches, Akhmat admitted he didn't even know which powers belonged to him and which were reserved for Moscow. He said their relationship had reached a dead end. Then, in 2004, shortly after that public criticism, Akhmat Kadyrov was assassinated during a Victory Day celebration at a stadium. A bomb planted under his seat exploded, killing him and 5 others. The investigation was quickly closed. The blame was pinned on unnamed militants allegedly unhappy with his rule. But years later, new information surfaced, raising serious doubts about that story. It turned out that almost no one knew about the president's movements that day, except for a small circle of insiders. The trip to the stadium was spontaneous and unplanned, meaning only someone close to him could have arranged the attack. Even more suspicious, Ramzan Kadyrov, who was head of his father's security detail and personally responsible for his protection, was not at the event. Instead, he was in Moscow. Nobody knows why. But the very next day, after his father's death, Ramzan met with Vladimir Putin. And off camera, Putin reportedly promised him full support and the path to take power himself. Chechnya remained peaceful, as long as it stayed loyal to Moscow. But today, even inside Russia, many openly suggest that Ramzan Kadyrov himself may have been involved in that very terrorist attack that killed his father. And the facts seem to point in that direction. Ramzan also had an older brother, Zelimkin. He became infamous not for any achievements but for his drunkenness, violent behavior, and even gunfights. His reckless lifestyle brought deep shame to the Kadyrov family name. Just weeks after Akhmat Kadyrov's assassination, Zelimkin also died under mysterious circumstances. And just like before, his safety had been Ramzan's responsibility. The investigation was swiftly closed, and the cause of death was never made public. After that, nothing stood in Ramzan's way. He threw himself fully into politics, and just 3 years later, at only 30 years old, he became president of Chechnya. How? Because no strong opponents were allowed to run. Moscow poured endless money into his PR campaign, ensuring a guaranteed victory. That's how Ramzan Kadyrov became the new ruler of Chechnya. This story alone reveals how ruthless and cold-blooded he truly is, and just how far he's willing to go for power. But it didn't stop there. Early in his career, Kadyrov's closest ally was Magomed Israilov, a man known for his strength and natural charisma. But soon, rumors began to circulate that Magomed had ambitions of his own, that he secretly dreamed of taking Kadyrov's place. And like many dictators, Ramzan Kadyrov had a private zoo filled with exotic animals. For years, Chechens have whispered a horrifying story: that Kadyrov fed Magomed Israilov, his former right-hand man, to his lions. No one ever saw Magomed again. His disappearance remains officially unexplained to this day. This story is so widely known in Chechnya that it explains the fear you can see in fighters like Khamzat Chimaev whenever they're around Kadyrov. One wrong word, one wrong move, and the consequences could be fatal. In such an atmosphere, silence and obedience are the safest choices. Kadyrov's family. Beyond his brutal and tyrannical rule, Ramzan Kadyrov has also built a strange and secretive personal life. He is known to have multiple wives. Officially, the media only acknowledges one, Medni Kadyrova, with whom he supposedly has 12 children. In reality, Kadyrov has children from several women, but publicly presents them all as if they came from a single marriage. His second wife, Fatima Kazwieva, reportedly placed second in a beauty contest in 2006. A competition that was allegedly organized specifically for Kadyrov, held privately behind closed doors, where he personally selected new women for his harem. According to Russian media, Fatima bore him 3 children. Most of Kadyrov's wives live in extreme luxury, hidden from public view, surrounded by unimaginable wealth. But not all of them lived such protected lives. In 2003, another of his wives, Janeta Makieva, was shot dead in broad daylight. Opposition media claimed she had defied Kadyrov and that her murder was meant to serve as a warning. In a grotesque act of irony, Kadyrov reportedly renamed one of his gas stations after Janeta for just a single day, a glimpse into the dictator's dark sense of humor. Kadyrov's favorite child and likely successor is his son, Adam. Ramzan dotes on him, buying watches worth up to $3 million and sending him to private meetings with Vladimir Putin. He's made sure Adam is deeply involved in martial arts and combat sports. Together, they've attended the fights of Chechen MMA star Abdulkarim Editor, a close family friend and one of Kadyrov's most loyal athletes. Impressed by Abdulkarim Edilov's skill, Ramzan Kadyrov offered him a new position, to become his son Adam's personal trainer. Abdulkarim and Adam grew extremely close. The young boy began competing in boxing at a very early age, with Abdulkarim often serving as his cornerman during matches. On November 10, 2021, Edilov was officially appointed as the head of the Secretariat of the Chechen Republic's administration, further cementing his status within Kadyrov's inner circle. Another man frequently seen alongside Adam was Murat Agamarzo, his personal bodyguard. Murat was a professional marksman and had previously worked as an instructor at Russia's elite Special Forces University. But in 2022, both Abdulkarim and Murat were found dead, almost simultaneously. The official narrative claimed that the two men had supposedly failed to control Adam's alleged drug use, which, according to rumors, led to him running over several people with his car. Another version, pushed by pro-government media, suggested that Adam's bodyguards were homosexuals who had a bad influence on him. Whatever the truth was, both Abdulkarim and Murat had, in one way or another, tarnished the Kadyrov family's public image. And as we've seen before, Ramzan never forgives those who bring him embarrassment. Their deaths were never reported in Chechen media, nor mentioned at any official meetings. Despite holding high-ranking government positions and being respected figures, their disappearance was quietly erased from public record. But among those who knew them, especially within the fighting community, the message was clear. It was both a warning and a reminder of what happens when you displease Ramzan Kadyrov. That same year, the year both men mysteriously died, Ramzan met Khamzat Chimaev for the first time. The two trained together, smiling for cameras inside the very same gym where the late Edilov had once coached. Not long after, Chimaev was repeatedly invited to train Kadyrov's sons. He was expected to put on a performance, dramatically falling to their punches and loudly praising their incredible fighting skills. Khamzat surely knew what had happened to Abdulkarim and Murat. That's why his behavior is easy to understand, and in some ways even evokes sympathy. He had no choice. In Chechnya, refusing Ramzan Kadyrov can be a death sentence. All these stories reveal the true nature of the Chechen dictator, a man obsessed with loyalty, driven by vengeance, and known for his explosive temper and inhuman cruelty. Every Chechen knows he cannot be challenged. His power is absolute. Kadyrov and Putin, you might wonder. How can the president of Russia turn a blind eye to such horrifying events? Why does Vladimir Putin allow his subordinate to commit such brutal acts without consequence? Why doesn't he ever draw the line for Kadyrov? The answer is simple. Kadyrov is Putin's most loyal ally. Ramzan brought relative stability to one of Russia's most rebellious regions. He crushed separatist movements and swore absolute loyalty to Moscow, earning Putin's personal trust in the process. But that's not the whole story. To truly understand the depth of Kadyrov's power and why Putin protects him, we have to look at another case, one with a chilling ending. It's a story that explains everything. Why Putin lets Kadyrov act with complete impunity, and why so many in Russia describe him as the devil in human form. For many years, Vladimir Putin had a powerful political rival, a man loved by the Russian people. His name was Boris Nemtsov. In the 1990s, Nemtsov held senior positions within the Russian government. Later, in the 2000s, he founded his own political party, one that dared to criticize Putin openly. Boris Nemtsov fought corruption at every turn and demanded real change in Russia. He was Vladimir Putin's loudest critic and his most dangerous rival. Many believed Nemtsov was the only man who could truly challenge Putin's power. He even planned to run in the 2018 presidential elections. But on the night of February 27, 2015, around 11:30 p.m., tragedy struck. Nemtsov was shot 4 times in the back while crossing the Bolshoi-Moskvoretsky Bridge, just 100 meters from the Kremlin walls. One of the assassins was Zor Dudayev, a former deputy commander of the Sever Battalion, a unit under Chechnya's interior ministry, which reported directly to Ramzan Kadyrov. The other 4 killers were also ethnic Chechens. They were arrested, tried, and convicted. But the man believed to have organized the hit, Ruslan Jeremiev, walked away untouched. Surveillance footage placed Jeremiev near the scene, yet he faced no consequences. He simply returned home to Chechnya, ignoring multiple court summons without punishment. Why? Because Ruslan Jeremiev is a close relative of Senator Suleiman Jeremiev, one of Kadyrov's most trusted allies. Thanks to these powerful connections, Ruslan was never questioned, never even inconvenienced. Many believe the assassination was carried out by Kadyrov's men, acting on direct orders from Putin. Over the years, Ramzan Kadyrov has become Putin's executioner, the man who handles the Kremlin's dirtiest work. Whenever the Russian president needs something done quietly and brutally, Kadyrov's forces are sent in. It's a perfect system. Putin maintains his image while Kadyrov enforces fear. And now, when you look at all the photos of famous Russian fighters smiling beside Ramzan Kadyrov, the message becomes crystal clear. They all understand one thing. If anything ever goes wrong, there is no escaping him. Ramzan's power in Russia is untouchable. No one, not the courts, not the press, not even the president, can stop him. Because in reality they act as one. Whatever Ramzan and his men do, no matter how violent or unlawful, they are protected. Nothing can hold them accountable. Escaping Kadyrov by that logic, Ramzan Kadyrov, after obtaining citizenship in the United Arab Emirates, could have chosen to stay there peacefully, hoping that Kadyrov might eventually forget about him. He also could have stayed in Sweden, where he once lived, trained, and built his early MMA career, far away from Chechnya's reach. At first glance, it may seem like Ramzan's decision to return and work with Kadyrov was voluntary. But if you look closer, that's not entirely true. The Kadyrov family has long had powerful rivals. The Yamadov clan, another influential Chechen family with deep political and military ties. The Yamadov clan was one of the most powerful families in Chechnya. Many of its members held high-ranking positions within the Russian military and government. For years, people believed that the Yamadovs might one day replace Ramzan Kadyrov as the region's rulers. A bitter feud grew between the two clans, the Kadyrovs and the Yamadovs. Several of the Yamadov brothers